Today, everyone, we're talking to the licensee in charge of Affinity Res, fondly known as AR throughout the real estate industry, with Rachel. Thanks so much for coming on board.
Thanks for having me.
So today, as business owners, I know lots of people watching and that follow want to know, well, we're earning money in this business. How can we invest it? And 9 times out of 10, everyone loves property. I love property. They love property. And then they're like, having an investment property is a pain in the ass, because I hear all these horror stories of they're not managed well or they're not giving high enough returns in this current market with real estate. So I wanted to ask you today just all the questions that I've had and that I've heard, and go through that in detail so people can sort of understand that, yeah, you can still put your money into an investment property if you have the right person on your team, which is what AR is all about, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Cool. So I have my first question.
Yeah.
Is what does good property management look like?
Good property management is proactive in management instead of being reactive. So a lot of the time we obviously have to be reactive to ad hoc things that come up. But overall, being proactive, and the main 2 areas, lots of ways we do it, but the main 2 areas is with regards to maintenance and lease renewals, which are probably 2 of the biggest costs that a landlord will incur in an investment property, is like releasing and maintenance. So how we do that, for example, with routine inspections, it's not just a quick walk around looking at how the tenant looks after the property. Obviously, that is what we look at as well, but it's looking at preventative maintenance items. So this is things like we check flexi hoses, for example, under kitchen sinks.
They're a pain in the ass.
Because
when they come to busting.
If they burst, like, it can cause thousands and thousands of dollars in damage. It's amazing when we go into new managements and things like that, and we manage a lot of properties on the beach as well. So they rust very quickly comparatively to other properties. So it's like changing those out the next time the plumber goes to make sure that, you know, you don't have those leaks. For houses, it's things like gutter cleaning or annual termite inspections, and cutting down overhanging trees in case you have a cyclone.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. I must say that was one of the most eventful and uneventful scenarios of Cyclone Alfred coming through.
But we also look at property improvements. So we look at the wear and tear on the property. At the end of the day, you don't want to own an investment property for 15 years, never do any maintenance or improvements, then you go to sell it and you're getting the lowest possible. You become, you know, the worst house in the best street because you haven't done anything for the last 15 years. So, you know, we're not suggesting people spend thousands and thousands of dollars on their properties, but it might be, hey, you know, the carpet is 10 years old. Let's plan for those expenses. So you don't go and look at your property after 5 years and go, wow, this is really bad.
Yeah, looks different to the photos on real estate.
To how I remember it.
Yeah, totally.
So just things like that to maintain your rental and your sale value as well. So that's really with the inspections and maintenance, and then lease renewals. So planning for lease renewals. So we'll look at them at least 3 months before a lease expires.
And why is that? Because I know the biggest landlord or investors' fear is like not having rent coming in at all times.
Yeah.
So like, how do you plan for that? Because you've explained to me a couple of times, and I just think it's absolutely ingenious. And I know lots of other business owners, friends of mine, they have properties vacant for weeks and weeks between leases because it seems like an afterthought for some scenarios.
So some people will get to like 1 month before and start talking to the owner about it. Now, tenants only need to give 2 weeks notice. It's always been the case.
Okay.
So that's a really short time period to get the property online, get inspections, process applications, and get it re-rented. So we look at it 3 months before, and there's a few reasons. First of all, if the owner does want to give notice, it's a 2-month notice period. It's a bit of a misconception that you can serve a 2-month notice 3 days before the end of a lease. It obviously just extends the time. So if you don't have to do it at 2 months. that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, if you did want the tenant to vacate at the end, if you were selling or planning to do improvements or whatever it may be, or you just want to release, then it's 2 months notice. So we do it 3 months before because we allow time for negotiation between the current tenant there. We'll do an appraisal to make sure that you're still getting market rent. And the other thing that we do, we go a step further with leases. So when we do a new lease with a tenant, say it's a 12-month lease, we always have it ending on a Monday.
Why?
No matter what the date is, if the end of the 12 months was a Wednesday or Thursday, we'll flip it forward or backward to whenever the next Monday is. The reason is because say you had a lease ending on a Wednesday. So the tenant vacates on a Wednesday. Agencies have 3 days to do their vacate, but let's say you do it immediately, which is on the Thursday. But then you always leave a little bit of time in between the tenancies in case there's any issues. So there might be cleaning or damage or whatever it is. Most vacates go smoothly, but some don't. So most tradies as well won't work on the weekends. Some agencies don't even work on the weekends. So if you have a tenant vacate on a Wednesday, you do your vacate report on a Thursday, you've then only left Friday with the weekends being out to get things sorted if something needs to be done.
Which is near impossible when it comes to trade availability for one day.
Yeah, because you might not know of an issue until you actually do the vacate. And then you've got to call your trades and get them there the very next day. You've got to do your entry report. You've got to hand over with new tenants. It's not generally something we do in a day, although we've done it before, but it's very difficult.
It's been a long day, right?
Yeah. So then you have a weekend break. So let's count. So you got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got 4 days so far. Then you might not be getting issues sorted until the Monday, and the week quickly passes in between the tenancies. So by having leases end on a Monday, we can get the vacate done on a Tuesday. We always do our vacates the very next day. We never wait 3 days. Then we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that we can get issues sorted and someone in there like on the Friday or the Saturday. So we're giving ourselves the maximum business hours to get someone in there. So it really only comes down to the weekend. So you're talking about potentially 2 days less rent, for example,
between leases.
By doing it that way, like between the leases. Because a lot of people move on the weekend as well. So in the other example, you might have them moving in the next Friday or the next Saturday. So you've got 8 or 9 days as opposed to 4 or 5 in the other scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just thinking that's a really well executed project management of like from a development construction background.
Yeah. So
that makes complete sense.
And it's only a couple of days, but a couple of days every turnover of the lease, depending on, it might be a couple $100.
100%. Like I'd love to understand like what's the average rent value of or like rental per week that AR manages?
So our average rent sits at about $900 a week. Yeah. On the rent roll. Yeah.
And I've seen some of the properties that you guys manage, like it's mid to high end. Like that's your niche because of the service, obviously. Yeah. So if I think you said one property is renting for just under 2,000 or just over 2,000 a week. Yeah. Those 4 days would matter massively to the owner. Yeah, they matter
for sure. Yeah. So being organised, and that's what it comes down to. So when we acquired the managements, obviously we can't change the current leases, but every single lease renewal now ends on a Monday, and it enables us to go, okay, Tuesdays are our vacate day. So we can manage more effectively and faster for our clients, and also getting the tenant's bond back faster for them as well.
Totally. I got lots of other questions around the nitty gritty of because I've been asking a lot of people actually since I first asked you, hey, you're happy to sit down again and go through it, because everyone's like, well, what does good property management look like? Well, a lot of them said that, well, they don't know, just whatever they're currently getting.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's no communication back from the property manager. That sometimes we did the inspection, but there's no photos, no report, no nothing.
Yeah.
And so they're left guessing. Or a property that I'm like renovating for a good friend of mine who's does consulting for our building company. I walked into his investment property that he hadn't seen for the last 5 years that he thought was getting inspected and maintained. And we're gutting it and redoing it. Like that's how bad it got for him.
Yeah.
So I guess it's nice to hear what good property management should look like, because you don't want it burning a hole in your pocket. If you're going to spend all this time investing all your hard-earned money from your business into an investment property and then suddenly it's just sucking you dry.
And never assume that every investor doesn't want to spend money. Like,
so
it's not
I'm
about
curious,
spending thousands and thousands of dollars. It's, you know, a lot of people want to maintain their investment properties too. Like, that's the whole point.
Do you think some property managers don't like let landlords know the options? You can do this, you can't do this, and then let the owner decide? Or are they too afraid of losing the management for putting something forward like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of that, and I've definitely seen it before as well.
Okay.
You know, they might get worn down over the years of people who don't want to spend any money. At the end of the day, it's not our decision what to do with your house. It's your decision. And if you don't want to spend money doing that, then that's fine.
But at least you know. Yeah.
We have a duty to report what we believe and suggest, and from our extensive experience know what you need to do to maintain that sale and rental value. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. But as long as we have done our job in advising you, then that's all we need to do.
Well, I've seen some of the properties you guys manage on the Gold Coast, and they're like $2, $3, $4 million plus properties in some cases. As an owner, I would want to know that my multi-million-dollar investment property, which is what a run of fees come to.
It becomes a massive expense if
it's a massive expense if you don't.
Yeah. So if you're spending small amounts over a longer period of time, then it
makes complete
more
sense.
Yeah.